My name is Theodora Magnolia Baptiste. I am 71 years old. I have lived through more pain than most people can imagine. I have buried a child. I have felt my heart shatter into a million pieces and wondered if it would ever beat again. And then, 8 years after I thought I had lost everything, I discovered that my son had left something behind, something precious, something that had been hidden from me all along. A child, a grandchild I never knew existed. Let me tell you about the moment I found out. It was a Tuesday afternoon in April. The sun was shining through my kitchen window, casting warm light across the table where I sat drinking tea. Outside, birds were singing. Spring flowers were blooming in my garden. It was the kind of day that should have brought joy. Instead, it brought a ghost from my past. The doorbell rang. I was not expecting anyone. My daughter Josephine lived across town and always called before visiting. My friends from church usually came on Wednesdays. I could not imagine who would be at my door on a random Tuesday afternoon. I opened the door. A young woman stood on my porch. She was in her early 20s, with beautiful dark skin, high cheekbones, and eyes that stopped my heart. Eyes I recognized. Eyes that belonged to my dead son. "Mrs. Baptiste," she asked, her voice trembling. "Mrs. Theodora Baptiste." "Yes, who are you?" The young woman took a deep breath. "My name is Celestine, Celestine Waters, and I think I am your granddaughter." I gripped the doorframe to steady myself. My vision blurred. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. "That is not possible," I whispered. My son did not have any children." "He did, ma'am, he had me." Celestine's eyes filled with tears. "My mother told me before she died. She told me everything. About my father, about you, about why she kept me a secret all these years." I stared at this young woman, this stranger who claimed to be my flesh and blood. "Your father," I said slowly. "Who was your father?" "His name was Marcus Baptiste. He died 8 years ago." The world tilted. I reached out blindly, and Celestine caught my arm, guiding me to a chair on the porch. Marcus, my beautiful boy who I had buried when he was only 27 years old. "How old are you?" I managed to ask. "I am 23, ma'am. I was born in 2001. My father, he was only 15 when I was born." 15. My son had become a father at 15 years old. And no one had told me. I looked at Celestine with new eyes. Now that I knew, I could see it clearly. The shape of her face, the curve of her smile, the way she tilted her head when she spoke. She was Marcus. She was my son, living and breathing in front of me. "Why?" my voice cracked. "Why did no one tell me?" Celestine sat down beside me, her own eyes brimming with tears. "That is why I am here, Mrs. Baptiste, because my mother left me a letter before she died. A letter that explained everything. A letter that revealed a secret so terrible, it will change everything you think you know about your son's death." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "Marcus died in a car accident. He lost control of his vehicle on a rainy night. It was a tragedy, but it was an accident." Celestine shook her head slowly. "It was not an accident, Mrs. Baptiste. My mother's letter says your son was murdered, and she knew who did it. Now, before I tell you more, I need to ask you something. Are you with me? Are you feeling the shock and confusion that I felt in that moment? If you are, I need you to do something for me right now. I need you to subscribe to this channel. Press that subscribe button. It is free, and it shows me that you want more stories like this. Stories about secrets that change everything. Stories about families torn apart and brought back together. Also, press the like button. That thumbs up helps more people find this channel. It helps me reach others who need to hear this story. And do not forget the notification bell. That little bell icon is so important. When you turn it on, you will get a message every time I post a new story. You will never miss anything. One more thing. Drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from. Are you from Georgia, Louisiana, Maryland? Maybe you are watching from Jamaica or London or Lagos or somewhere else around the world. I want to know who is here with me. I want to build a family of strong people who support each other. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you about my son Marcus, about the life we lived, and about the day everything changed. Marcus Elijah Baptiste was born on a cool October morning in 1985. He was my miracle baby, my gift from God. My husband, Cornelius, and I had tried for years to have children. Doctors told us it was unlikely. We had almost given up hope when I discovered I was pregnant at 37 years old. Marcus came into the world screaming and strong. From his first breath, he was full of life, full of energy, full of everything good and bright. He was a beautiful child, curious, mischievous, always asking questions, always exploring, always pushing boundaries. He exhausted me, but he also filled my heart with more love than I had ever known. When Marcus was 3, we were blessed again. His sister Josephine was born. Our family was complete. Cornelius worked as a contractor, building houses all over the city. I worked as a school teacher at the local elementary school. We were not wealthy, but we had enough. We had a good home, a good community, a good life. Marcus grew into a handsome young man. He was tall like his father, with my mother's eyes and my grandmother's stubborn spirit. He was smart, earning good grades in school. He was athletic, playing football and basketball. He was kind, always helping neighbors and looking out for younger kids. But Marcus was not perfect. No teenager is. When he was 14, he started spending time with a different crowd. Older boys from the neighborhood. Boys who stayed out late and came home smelling like cigarettes. Boys who had dropped out of school and had no plans for the future. I worried about Marcus. I talked to him constantly about making good choices, about staying focused on his education, about avoiding the traps that had claimed so many young black men in our community. He listened, or at least he pretended to listen. And then, when Marcus was 15, something changed. He became secretive. He would disappear for hours at a time. He stopped talking to me about his life, his friends, his feelings. He built walls around himself that I could not break through. I did not know it then, but Marcus had met a girl named Rosalind Waters, a girl who would change everything. I did not learn about Rosalind until years later. She was 16 when she met my son, a junior at a different high school across town, beautiful and bold and everything a 15-year-old boy dreams about. They fell in love fast, the way teenagers do, hot and intense and all-consuming. They thought no one understood them. They thought their love was different, special, forever. And then Rosalind got pregnant. I can only imagine how terrified they must have been. 2 children, barely more than Bobbies themselves, facing the reality of becoming parents. But instead of coming to their families for help, they made a different choice. They kept it secret. Rosalind hid her pregnancy from everyone. She wore loose clothes. She made excuses about gaining weight. Her own mother was rarely home, working double shifts as a nurse to make ends meet. No one paid close enough attention to notice. When Celestine was born, Rosalind told her mother that she had been helping a friend who had gotten pregnant. She said she was babysitting while the friend got back on her feet. Her mother, exhausted and distracted, did not ask too many questions. And Marcus, he visited when he could, sneaking out at night, making excuses about where he was going, doing his best to be a father while hiding the truth from everyone. They planned to tell the truth eventually, when they were older, when they had finished school, when they could stand on their own feet and face whatever consequences came. But life does not always wait for our plans. When Marcus was 17, tragedy struck. Cornelius, my husband, died of a heart attack. He was only 52 years old. One moment he was alive, the next he was gone. No warning, no goodbye. I was devastated. Our family was devastated. Marcus became the man of the house overnight. He had to step up, to take care of his mother and sister, to hold everything together while we all fell apart. I think that is when the weight became too much for him, the secret he was carrying, the responsibility of a hidden child, the grief of losing his father, the pressure of trying to be everything to everyone. He started pulling away from Rosalind. Their relationship became strained. They argued about when to tell the truth. They argued about money. They argued about everything. By the time Marcus was 19, they had broken up. Rosalind kept Celestine. She raised her alone. She never told anyone who the father was. She let people assume what they wanted. And Marcus, he buried himself in work and school. He got a job at a warehouse. He started taking classes at the community college. He tried to move forward with his life, even though he was haunted by the daughter he could not acknowledge. I watched my son during those years. I knew something was wrong. I could see the sadness in his eyes, the weight on his shoulders. I asked him again and again what was bothering him. "Nothing, Mama," he would say. "Just tired, just stressed, nothing to worry about." I should have pushed harder. I should have demanded answers. I should have broken through those walls he had built. But I did not. I gave him space. I respected his privacy. And I lost the chance to know the truth. Marcus died on a rainy night in October 2016. He was 27 years old, the same age his father had been when I met him. The police said it was an accident. His car had gone off the road on a dangerous curve. The rain was heavy. The roads were slick. He lost control and hit a tree. I did not believe it at first. Marcus was a careful driver. He knew those roads. He had been driving them since he was 16 years old. But the police investigation found no evidence of foul play, no other vehicles involved, no signs of mechanical failure, just a tragic accident on a rainy night. I buried my son next to his father. I stood at his grave and felt my heart die with him. Josephine was there, holding me up. My church family surrounded me. Friends and neighbors offered condolences. But no one could take away the pain. No one could fill the hole that Marcus left behind. In the months after his death, I went through his belongings, his clothes, his books, his papers. I was looking for something, anything, that would help me understand who my son had become in the years before he died. I found nothing unusual, nothing that explained the sadness I had seen in his eyes, nothing that revealed the secret he had been carrying. Because the secret was not in his apartment. The secret was in a little girl across town, a little girl who had just lost her father without ever really knowing him. 8 years passed. I grew older. My grief softened but never disappeared. I built a quiet life, church on Sundays, volunteering at the community center, tending my garden, spending time with Josephine and her family. I had grandchildren through Josephine, 2 beautiful girls who brought light into my life. I loved them fiercely. I thanked God for them every day. But sometimes, late at night, I would think about Marcus. I would wonder if he had ever been in love, if he had ever wanted children, if there was some part of him that had continued beyond his death. I had no idea that my questions had already been answered. Until that Tuesday afternoon, when Celestine appeared on my porch. "Murdered," I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. "You are saying my son was murdered?" Celestine nodded, her face pale with emotion. "My mother's letter. She wrote it 2 months before she died. She had cancer. She knew she did not have long. She wanted me to know the truth." "What truth? What could possibly?" "Mrs. Baptiste, my mother saw something. The night my father died, she was there." My heart stopped. She was there, on that road. Not exactly, but she saw who was following him. She saw the car that ran him off the road. Another car. The police said there was no other vehicle involved. The police were wrong, or maybe they did not look hard enough, but my mother saw it. She saw everything. I grabbed Celestine's hands. Who did she see?" Celestine hesitated. Tears were streaming down her face now. "Someone from your family, Mrs. Baptiste. Someone you trust. Someone who has been lying to you for 8 years." The world spun around me. Someone from my family, but that was impossible. My family was small, just me and Josephine. There was no one else. Unless... "Celestine, I need you to tell me everything. I need to see that letter." She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope, worn and creased, like it had been read many times. "It is all in here. Everything my mother knew. Everything she was too afraid to tell anyone while she was alive. I took the envelope with trembling hands. Whatever was inside would change everything I thought I knew about my son's death, about my family, about the people I trusted most. And there was no going back. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. My hands trembled as I held the envelope. The letter inside was written on plain white paper, the handwriting neat but shaky. The words of a dying woman, finally telling the truth she had carried for so long. Celestine sat beside me on the porch, watching my face as I began to read. Dear Celestine, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and it is time for you to know the truth about everything, about your father, about his death, about the people who have been lying to you your whole life. I have carried these secrets for too long. They have been eating away at me day after day, year after year. I should have spoken up sooner. I should have been braver. But I was afraid. Afraid of what might happen to you if the wrong people found out what I knew. But now I am dying. Cancer is taking me, and soon I will not be here to protect you. So I need to give you the truth, even if it hurts, even if it changes everything. Your father's name was Marcus Baptiste. We met when I was 16 and he was 15. We fell in love the way young people do, fast and foolish and without thinking about consequences. When I got pregnant with you, we were terrified. We were just children ourselves. We did not know how to be parents. We kept you a secret. It was wrong, I know that now. But at the time, it seemed like the only way. Marcus's family was going through so much. His father had just died. His mother was barely holding on. We told ourselves we would reveal the truth when things settled down, when we were older, when we could stand on our own feet. But things never settled down. Life kept throwing obstacles in our way. And then Marcus and I grew apart. We stopped being together. But he never stopped loving you, Celestine. He visited when he could. He sent money when he had it. He was trying to be a father even from a distance. I stopped reading and looked at Celestine. He knew about you. He was part of your life. Yes, not as much as I wanted, but he came when he could. He called on my birthdays. He was there in his own way. I felt tears burning in my eyes. My son had been a father. For 15 years, he had been a father, and I never knew. Why did he not tell me? I whispered. Keep reading, Mrs. Baptiste. The letter explains everything. I turned back to the page. When you were 15, everything changed. Marcus had finally decided to tell his family about you. He was tired of the secrets. He wanted you to know your grandmother. He wanted to stop living a lie. But someone found out before he could tell them himself. Someone who did not want the truth to come out. Her name was Josephine. I stopped breathing. Josephine, my daughter, Marcus's sister. No, I said aloud, that is not possible. Please, Mrs. Baptiste, keep reading. Josephine discovered the truth about you by accident. She found letters Marcus had written to you, letters he kept hidden in his apartment. She confronted him about it. I do not know exactly what was said between them. Marcus never told me the full story. But I know that Josephine was furious. She said that if Marcus revealed the truth, it would destroy your grandmother. She said the scandal would ruin the family's reputation. She said she would never forgive him. Marcus tried to explain. He tried to make her understand. But Josephine would not listen. She gave him an ultimatum, keep the secret forever or she would make sure he regretted it. Marcus chose to keep the secret. He was afraid of losing his family. He was afraid of what Josephine might do, so he stayed quiet, and so did I. But Josephine was not satisfied with his silence. She wanted to make sure the secret never came out. She started watching Marcus, following him, keeping track of his movements. And on the night Marcus died, she was there. I threw the letter down like it was on fire. This is lies. This is madness. Josephine would never. She loved her brother. She worshipped him. Mrs. Baptiste, please, there is more. I do not want to read more. This letter is full of lies from a woman I never met. A woman who hid my granddaughter from me for 23 years. Why should I believe anything she says? Celestine's eyes filled with tears. Because my mother had no reason to lie. She was dying when she wrote this. She knew she would never see me again. She wanted me to know the truth so I could protect myself. Protect yourself from what? From the same people who killed my father. I stared at this young woman, this stranger who carried my son's eyes and my grandmother's stubborn spirit. You think Josephine killed Marcus? I do not know for certain, but my mother's letter says she saw Josephine's car that night, on that road, right before my father's accident. That does not prove anything. Josephine could have been, I do not know, maybe she was just driving somewhere. At 11 o'clock at night, on a back road that leads nowhere, in the middle of a rainstorm. I had no answer. Mrs. Baptiste, I am not here to accuse anyone. I am not here to cause trouble. I am here because my mother wanted me to find you. She wanted me to know my grandmother, and she wanted you to know the truth. I picked up the letter again. My hands were still shaking. I saw Josephine's car that night. I was at my mother's house, which is only a mile from where Marcus died. I heard the crash. I ran outside, and I saw a silver sedan driving away from the scene. A silver sedan with a dent in the rear bumper. Josephine drives a silver sedan. I have seen it many times, and I know her car has a dent in the rear bumper because Marcus pointed it out to me once. He said she had backed into a pole at the grocery store. I do not know for certain that Josephine caused the accident, but I know what I saw, and I know that she had a reason to want Marcus silent. I should have told someone, I should have gone to the police, but I was afraid. Josephine is a powerful woman. She has connections. She has money. She could destroy me. She could take you away from me. So I stayed silent. I kept my head down. I raised you the best I could. And I prayed that someday, someone braver than me would uncover the truth. That someone is you, Celestine. You are braver than I ever was. You are stronger than I ever was. Find your grandmother. Tell her the truth. And let the chips fall where they may. I love you, baby girl. I am sorry for all the lies. I am sorry for all the secrets. But I hope you can understand why I did what I did. Your mother, Rosalind. I set the letter down slowly. My mind was reeling. My heart was breaking all over again. Josephine, my sweet, devoted daughter. The child who had stayed by my side through everything. The woman who called me every day, who visited every week, who had been my rock since Marcus died. Could she really have killed her own brother? I did not sleep that night. I sat in my living room, staring at the walls, trying to make sense of everything Celestine had told me. She had gone to a hotel for the night, giving me space to process. She promised to come back the next day so we could talk more. But I did not know if I wanted to talk more. I did not know if I could handle any more revelations. The letter sat on the table in front of me. I had read it 3 more times, looking for inconsistencies, looking for reasons to dismiss it as the ravings of a bitter woman. But I could not find any. Every detail matched what I knew to be true. The timeline, the locations, the description of Josephine's car, everything fit together like pieces of a terrible puzzle. And there was something else, something I had pushed to the back of my mind for years. The night Marcus died, Josephine had been acting strangely. She had come to my house around midnight, just an hour after the police called to tell me about the accident. She was pale and shaking. Her clothes were wet from the rain. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying. I had assumed she was upset because of Marcus. I had assumed she had been driving around, trying to process the news. But now I wondered if there was another explanation. Had Josephine been at the scene of the accident? Had she been there when her brother died? I buried my face in my hands and wept. The next morning, Celestine returned. She found me in the kitchen, making coffee with trembling hands. I had not slept. I had not eaten. I was running on grief and confusion and a desperate need for answers. Mrs. Baptiste, are you all right? No, child, I am not all right. I do not think I will ever be all right again. Celestine sat down across from me. I am sorry. I know this is overwhelming. I know it changes everything. You have no idea what this changes. I set down my coffee cup. You are asking me to believe that my daughter killed my son. You are asking me to choose between my children. I am not asking you to choose anything. I am just telling you what my mother saw, what she believed, what she thought you deserved to know. And what do you believe, Celestine? Do you think Josephine murdered your father? Celestine was quiet for a long moment. I do not know. I never met Josephine. I do not know what kind of person she is. All I have is my mother's letter and the questions it raises. Questions that could destroy my family. Questions that could also reveal the truth about your son's death. I looked at this young woman, my granddaughter, the child Marcus had loved in secret for 15 years. She had his eyes, his determination, his stubborn refusal to let things go. What do you want me to do? I asked. I want you to help me find the truth. I want to know what really happened to my father, and I want justice, if justice is possible after all these years. Justice? How? The police closed the case 8 years ago. There is no evidence, no witnesses, nothing but a letter from a dead woman. There may be more evidence than you think. Celestine pulled out her phone. My mother kept other things, documents, photographs, notes she made over the years. I have not gone through all of it yet, but there might be something that can help us. Help us do what? Accuse Josephine without proof. Destroy our family based on suspicion. No, help us find the truth, whatever that truth turns out to be. I stared at my granddaughter, this stranger who had walked into my life and upended everything. Part of me wanted to throw her out, to dismiss Rosalind's letter as lies, to go back to my quiet life and pretend none of this had ever happened. But another part of me, the mother's part, the part that had never stopped grieving for Marcus, needed to know. I needed to know if my son's death had really been an accident. I needed to know if someone I loved and trusted had betrayed us all. All right, I said finally. Show me what else your mother left behind. We spent the rest of the day going through Rosalind's documents. There were boxes of them, stored in a rental unit across town. Celestine had picked them up after her mother's funeral and had been slowly sorting through them ever since. Most of it was mundane. Old bills, medical records, photographs from Celestine's childhood, letters from friends and family. But buried among the ordinary, there were things that made my blood run cold. A journal, Rosalind's private journal, spanning nearly 2 decades. I opened it to a random page. March 15, 2014. Marcus came to see Celestine today. She is 13 now, growing up so fast. She looks more like him every day. He stayed for 3 hours, played games with her, helped her with homework. He is trying so hard to be a good father, even though he cannot be here all the time. He told me he is thinking about telling his mother the truth. He is tired of the lies. He wants Celestine to know her grandmother. He wants to stop living in the shadows. I am scared. I know how his sister reacted when she found out. I know what Josephine is capable of. But Marcus says he is done being afraid. He says it is time. I pray he is right. I pray this does not end in disaster. I turn more pages. October 10, 2016. Marcus is dead. I cannot write those words without crying. The man I loved, the father of my child, is gone. They say it was an accident. They say he lost control of his car in the rain. But I know what I saw. I know whose car was on that road. I know who was following him. I should tell someone, I should go to the police, but I am afraid. Josephine has power. She has connections. She could take Celestine from me. She could destroy us both. So I will stay silent. I will raise our daughter. I will protect her the only way I know how, by keeping my head down and my mouth shut. But someday the truth will come out. It always does. I closed the journal. Tears were streaming down my face. This is real, I whispered. This is all real. Yes, ma'am. My mother was not making things up. She saw what she saw. But why? Why would Josephine do something like this? She loved Marcus. She adored him. The letter said Josephine was afraid of scandal, afraid of what the truth would do to your family's reputation. That is not enough. You do not kill your own brother over reputation. There has to be more. There has to be something else. Celestine hesitated. There is one more thing, something I found at the bottom of one of the boxes. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded document. This is a life insurance policy. It was taken out on my father 6 months before he died. I stared at the paper. Life insurance. Marcus had life insurance. Yes, for $500,000, and look at who the beneficiary is. I scanned the document until I found the name. Josephine Marie Baptiste. My daughter, the beneficiary of my son's life insurance policy. $500,000, Celestine said quietly. That is a lot of money, Mrs. Baptiste, enough to pay off debts, enough to buy a house, enough to change someone's life. I thought about Josephine's life after Marcus died, the new house she bought a year later, the car she paid off, the way her financial struggles seemed to evaporate overnight. I had assumed she had gotten a promotion at work. I had assumed she had been saving. I had never questioned it. But now, this does not prove anything, I said weakly. Lots of people have life insurance. Maybe Marcus named her as beneficiary because he did not have anyone else. He had me, Celestine said. He had a daughter. If he was going to name anyone, it should have been me, or you. She was right. If Marcus had been thinking about his legacy, he would have named his child. He would have made sure Celestine was taken care of. Unless he did not know about the policy. Unless someone else had taken it out without his knowledge. Celestine, is there any way to find out who actually purchased this policy? Whether Marcus bought it himself or whether someone else did. I have been trying to track that down. The insurance company is not very helpful, but I have a friend who works in records. She is doing some digging for me. When will she have answers? She said by tomorrow, maybe the day after. I nodded slowly. Then we wait. We wait until we have more information. And then what? I looked at my granddaughter with tired, grief-stricken eyes. And then we confront Josephine, and we find out the truth once and for all. That night, I made a decision. I would not tell Josephine about Celestine. Not yet. I would not reveal that I knew anything about Rosalind's letter or the accusations it contained. I would act normal. I would be the same loving mother I had always been. I would watch and wait and gather information. And when the time was right, I would strike. But keeping the secret was harder than I expected. Josephine called the next morning, as she always did. Good morning, Mama. How are you feeling today? I am fine, baby, just tired, did not sleep well. Oh no, is something bothering you? Do you want me to come over? Every instinct told me to say no, to keep her at a distance until I knew more. But if I acted differently, she would notice. She would suspect something was wrong. That would be nice, baby. Come for lunch. I will make your favorite. Sounds perfect, Mama. I will see you around noon. I hung up the phone and stared at the wall. In a few hours, my daughter, the woman I loved and trusted, would be sitting across from me at my kitchen table, and I would have to look her in the eye and pretend I did not suspect her of murder. I did not know if I could do it, but I had to try. For Marcus, for Celestine, for the truth. Josephine arrived at noon, exactly as promised. She breezed into my house with her usual energy, kissing my cheek and filling the kitchen with chatter. Mama, you look tired. Are you sure you are okay? Maybe you should see a doctor. I am fine, Josephine, just did not sleep well. It happens at my age. She laughed and started helping me set the table. I watched her closely, looking for signs of guilt, signs of deception, signs of the monster Rosalind's letter had described. But I saw nothing, just my daughter bright and cheerful, same as always. Maybe the letter was wrong. Maybe Rosalind had been mistaken. Maybe Josephine was innocent. Or maybe she was just very good at hiding. We sat down to eat. Josephine talked about her job, her children, her husband. Normal, everyday things. And then she said something that made my blood freeze. Mama, I drove past Marcus's grave yesterday. I try to visit him every month, keep the flowers fresh. That is sweet of you, baby. I just miss him so much. I think about him every day. I wonder what his life would have been like if he had not died so young. I studied her face. Was that genuine grief, or was it performance? I miss him too, I said carefully. I think about him all the time. He was a good man. He had his secrets, but he was good. My heart skipped. Secrets, what do you mean? Josephine shrugged casually. Oh, everyone has secrets, things they do not tell their family. I am sure Marcus had his share. Did he ever tell you any of his secrets? Something flickered in Josephine's eyes, just for a moment, so quick I almost missed it. No, Mama, he never told me anything. He kept everything locked up tight. She was lying. I could feel it in my bones. She knew about Celestine. She had known for years, and she had done something terrible to make sure that secret never came out. But I could not prove it, not yet. Well, I said, forcing a smile, I suppose we all have things we keep to ourselves. We do, Mama, we certainly do. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. After Josephine left that afternoon, I sat alone in my kitchen for a long time. My hands were still trembling. My heart was still racing. The casual way she had mentioned Marcus's secrets, the flicker in her eyes when I asked about them, it all pointed to one terrible conclusion. My daughter knew more than she was saying, much more. But knowing and proving were two different things. I needed evidence. I needed facts. I needed something more than the accusations of a dead woman and my own suspicions. Celestine arrived an hour later. How did it go? She asked, sitting across from me at the table. She was here. We had lunch. She talked about Marcus. Did she say anything suspicious? She mentioned that Marcus had secrets. She said everyone has things they hide from their family. Celestine's eyes widened. She knows. She knows about me. I think so, but she does not know that I know. That is our advantage. What do we do now? I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the spring sun was shining. Birds were singing in the trees. The world looked peaceful and beautiful, completely at odds with the darkness swirling inside my heart. We need to find more evidence, something concrete, something that connects Josephine to your father's death. My friend is still working on the insurance policy. She should have answers by tomorrow. Good, but we need more than that. We need to know what happened that night, every detail. How do we find that out? It was 8 years ago. The police closed the case. I turned to face my granddaughter. The police closed the case because they thought it was an accident. They were not looking for evidence of foul play. But if we can reopen the investigation, if we can get them to take another look. They would need a reason, new evidence, something they did not have before. Then we find it. We go back to the beginning. We trace your father's movements that night. We talk to anyone who might have seen something. After 8 years, people forget, witnesses move away. Some do, but not all. And sometimes, people who stayed quiet at the time are willing to talk later, especially if they know they are not the only ones asking questions. Celestine nodded slowly. Where do we start? We start with the road where your father died. We start at the scene of the accident. The next morning, Celestine and I drove to Miller's Curve. It was a winding stretch of road on the outskirts of town, surrounded by dense woods on both sides. The kind of road where accidents happened, especially in bad weather. I had not been here since Marcus's funeral. I had avoided this place, unable to face the memories it held. But now I forced myself to look, to see, to understand. We parked on the shoulder and got out of the car. The morning air was cool and damp. Birds chirped in the trees. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves. It was peaceful, beautiful even. But 8 years ago, on a rainy October night, my son had died here. I walked to the spot where his car had left the road. There was still a faint scar on one of the trees, where the bark had been stripped away by the impact. Nature had started to heal the wound, but it was still visible if you knew where to look. This is where it happened, I said quietly. Celestine stood beside me, her face pale. I never came here. My mother would not let me. She said it was too painful. It is painful, but it is also important. We need to understand what happened. I looked up and down the road. The curve was sharp, yes, but Marcus had driven this road hundreds of times. He knew every twist and turn. Your mother's letter said Josephine's car was following Marcus. If that is true, she would have been coming from this direction. I pointed toward the east, and she would have left going that way. I pointed toward the west. Your mother lived about a mile in that direction. She said she heard the crash and came outside. She saw Josephine's car driving away. Celestine nodded. So if we can find anyone else who was on this road that night, they might have seen something too. Exactly. There are a few houses along this stretch. Maybe someone was looking out their window. Maybe someone heard something. We spent the next 2 hours knocking on doors. Most of the houses were empty during the day, their occupants at work. But we found a few people home, retirees, stay-at-home parents, people who worked night shifts. Most of them had nothing to offer. They had moved to the area after Marcus's death, or they simply did not remember anything from that night. But at the 5th house, we found something. An elderly woman named Gertrude Hawkins answered the door. She was in her 80s, with sharp eyes and a memory that put people half her age to shame. The accident on Miller's Curve. Of course I remember. It was the talk of the neighborhood for weeks. Did you see anything that night, Mrs. Hawkins? I saw plenty. I was up late watching television. The storm had knocked out my cable, so I was just sitting by the window, watching the rain. My heart started pounding. What did you see? 2 cars coming from the east, one right behind the other. They were going fast. Too fast for that road, especially in that weather. Can you describe the cars? The one in front was dark, black or maybe dark blue, hard to tell in the rain. The one behind was lighter, silver, I think, or maybe gray. Silver, just like Rosalind had said. Did you see what happened? Did you see the accident? Not directly. They went around the curve out of my sight, but I heard the crash. Terrible sound, metal on wood, and then nothing. What about after? Did you see anything after the crash? Gertrude hesitated. I saw the silver car. It came back around the curve a few minutes later, going slow this time, like the driver was, I do not know, checking something. Did you see who was driving? No, it was too dark and the rain was too heavy, but I remember thinking it was strange. If there was an accident, why was that car leaving? Why was not it stopping to help? I felt sick. Mrs. Hawkins, did you tell any of this to the police? No, they never came to ask me. I figured they knew what they were doing. I did not want to get involved. Would you be willing to tell them now, if we could get the case reopened? Gertrude looked at me with curious eyes. Why? What is this about? Who are you? I took a deep breath. The man who died in that accident was my son, Marcus Baptiste, and I have reason to believe it was not an accident. Gertrude's face softened with sympathy. Oh, honey, I am so sorry. I had no idea. Please, Mrs. Hawkins, if you could tell the police what you saw, it might help us find the truth. She thought for a moment. All right, if you can get someone to listen, I will tell them what I know. We left Gertrude's house with renewed hope. We had a witness, someone who had seen 2 cars on the road that night, someone who had seen the silver car return after the crash and then drive away. It was not proof, but it was a start. We need to find more witnesses, Celestine said as we drove back toward town. More people who saw something. We also need to get the police interested. They are not going to reopen an 8-year-old case just because an old woman saw a car. What about the insurance policy? If we can prove that Josephine took it out without my father's knowledge, that would be motive. Yes, when is your friend supposed to have answers? Celestine checked her phone. She texted me this morning. She found something. She wants to meet us this afternoon. Then that is where we go next. Celestine's friend worked at an insurance company downtown. Her name was Marissa, and she had agreed to meet us at a coffee shop near her office. She was a young woman, about Celestine's age, with nervous eyes and a folder full of documents. "I could lose my job for this," she said quietly, "if anyone finds out I was digging through old files." "We appreciate the risk you are taking," I said. "Whatever you found, it could help us get justice for Marcus." Marissa nodded and opened the folder. "Okay, so the life insurance policy on Marcus Baptiste was purchased in April 2016, 6 months before his death." "Who purchased it?" "That is where it gets interesting. The application was signed by Marcus Baptiste, but the handwriting analysis I ran shows some inconsistencies." "Inconsistencies? What do you mean?" "I mean the signature does not quite match other documents we have on file for Marcus. The pressure is different. The letter formation is slightly off. It could be nothing. People sign things differently depending on the situation, but it could also mean that someone forged his signature," Celestine finished. "Possibly. I cannot say for certain without a professional analysis, but there is more." She pulled out another document. The policy was paid for with a credit card that was not in Marcus's name. "Whose name was it in?" Marissa hesitated. "Josephine Baptiste." There it was, the connection we had been looking for. So Josephine paid for a life insurance policy on Marcus, a policy that made her the beneficiary of $500,000. "Yes, and there is one more thing." Marissa pulled out a final document. The claim was filed the day after Marcus died, before the police had even finished their investigation, before the death certificate was issued. I stared at the paper. She filed the claim immediately. She did not even wait for the body to be buried. "No, ma'am. It was the fastest claim I have ever seen in my years at this company." I felt rage building inside me, hot, burning rage. My daughter had taken out a life insurance policy on her brother. She had forged his signature. She had paid the premiums with her own credit card, and the moment he died, she had rushed to collect the money. This was not the behavior of a grieving sister. This was the behavior of a killer. We thanked Marissa and left the coffee shop. My mind was racing. My heart was pounding. Everything was falling into place, and the picture it painted was horrifying. "We have enough now," Celestine said. "We have the witness. We have the insurance fraud. We have motive and opportunity. We have circumstantial evidence. It might not be enough to convince the police. Then what else do we need?" I thought for a moment. "We need Josephine to confess. We need her to admit what she did." "How do we get her to do that?" "By confronting her, by showing her what we know, by making her think we have more evidence than we actually do." "That is risky. What if she denies everything? What if she turns the tables on us?" "Then we will deal with that. But right now, confrontation is our best option." Celestine looked at me with concern. "Mrs. Baptiste, are you sure you are ready for this? This is your daughter we are talking about, your own flesh and blood." I thought about Marcus, my beautiful boy, the son I had raised and loved and buried. And I thought about Josephine, the daughter who had stood by my side at his funeral, the daughter who had held me while I cried, the daughter who had been lying to me for 8 years. "I am ready," I said. "It is time for the truth." That evening, I called Josephine. "Baby, I need you to come over. Tonight. It is important." "Tonight, Mama. Is everything okay? You sound strange." "Just come, Josephine, please." There was a pause. "All right, I will be there in an hour." I hung up and turned to Celestine. "She is coming. Are you ready?" Celestine nodded. But I could see the fear in her eyes. She was about to meet the woman who might have killed her father, the aunt she had never known, the enemy hiding in plain sight. "I will be right beside you," I said. "Whatever happens, we face it together." Josephine arrived at 7 o'clock. She walked into my living room with her usual confidence, her purse slung over her shoulder, her smile bright and warm. And then she saw Celestine. She stopped cold, her smile vanished, her face went pale. "Mama, who is this?" Josephine, this is Celestine. Celestine Waters. Waters? I do not know anyone by that name. Yes, you do. I stepped forward, positioning myself between my daughter and my granddaughter. Celestine is Marcus's daughter, your niece. The silence that followed was deafening. Josephine's eyes darted from me to Celestine and back again. I could see the calculations running through her mind, the lies being assembled, the defenses being built. Marcus did not have a daughter, she said finally. That is ridiculous. He did. He had a daughter with a woman named Rosalind Waters. They kept her a secret because they were young and scared. But she exists. She is standing right in front of you. Josephine shook her head. This is some kind of scam. Someone is trying to get money from our family. Mama, you cannot believe this. I believe her because she has proof. Letters Marcus wrote, photographs of him with Celestine as a child, and a letter from Rosalind explaining everything. Rosalind? Who is Rosalind? Marcus's girlfriend, Celestine's mother, the woman who saw you on Miller's Curve the night Marcus died. Josephine's face went white. I do not know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Rosalind saw your car that night. She saw you following Marcus. She saw you leave after the crash without stopping to help. That is a lie. I was not there. Then why did a witness a mile up the road see two cars? A dark one in front and a silver one behind. Your silver sedan with the dent in the rear bumper. Josephine was trembling now. The mask was cracking. Mama, you cannot believe this. I loved Marcus. I would never hurt him. Then explain the life insurance policy. The one you took out on Marcus 6 months before he died. The one with the forged signature. The one you paid for with your own credit card. Josephine's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. Explain why you filed the claim the day after he died, before the police investigation was finished, before we even buried him. That was. Explain why you have been lying to me for 8 years, why you never told me about Celestine, why you let me believe my son died without leaving anything behind. Josephine sank onto the couch. Her whole body was shaking. Tears were streaming down her face. Mama, please, you do not understand. Then help me understand. Tell me the truth. For once in your life, tell me the truth. Josephine looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. It was an accident, she whispered. I never meant for him to die. My heart shattered all over again. What happened that night, Josephine? Tell me everything. Josephine sat on my couch, her face buried in her hands, her body shaking with sobs. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was my daughter's crying, deep, wrenching sobs that seemed to come from somewhere buried inside her for years. I stood frozen, staring at the woman I had raised, the woman I had loved and trusted, the woman who had just admitted that my son's death was not an accident. Celestine stood beside me, her face pale, her hands clenched into fists. She was looking at the aunt she had never known with a mixture of horror and grief. Finally, I found my voice. Tell me everything, Josephine, from the beginning. I need to know exactly what happened. Josephine looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. Mama, please understand. I never wanted to hurt Marcus. I loved him. He was my brother. Then why? Why did you follow him that night? Why did you take out that insurance policy? Why have you been lying to me for 8 years? Josephine took a shaky breath. It started when I found out about her. She gestured weakly toward Celestine. About the secret daughter Marcus had been hiding. How did you find out? I was at his apartment one day. He had asked me to pick up some documents for him while he was at work. I was looking through his desk for the papers, and I found the letters. Letters to a child named Celestine. Letters talking about visits and birthdays and how much he loved her. Josephine's voice cracked. I was shocked. I had no idea Marcus had a daughter. He had kept it completely hidden from everyone. From you, from me, from the whole family. So you confronted him. Yes, that same night. I went to his apartment and demanded to know the truth. What did he say? He told me everything. About Rosalind. about the pregnancy when they were teenagers, about how they had kept Celestine a secret because they were scared and young and did not know what to do. Josephine shook her head. He said he was tired of lying. He said he wanted to tell you, Mama. He wanted Celestine to know her grandmother. He wanted to bring her into the family. And you did not want that. No, I did not. Why? What possible reason could you have for keeping my grandchild away from me? Josephine was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what the truth would do to our family. Afraid of the scandal. Afraid of what people would say. People? What people? What does it matter what anyone says? It mattered to me, Mama. I had worked so hard to build a respectable life, a good job, a nice house, a family that people looked up to. I could not stand the thought of everyone knowing that my brother had a secret child, that he had been lying to everyone for years. I stared at my daughter in disbelief. You were willing to destroy your brother's chance at happiness because you were worried about your reputation. It sounds terrible when you say it like that, but you do not understand, Mama. After Daddy died, I took on so much responsibility. I held this family together. I sacrificed everything to make sure we had a good name in this community. And Marcus's daughter was a threat to that good name. Yes, in my mind she was. I know it was wrong. I know it was selfish. But I could not see past my own fear. Josephine wiped her eyes. I told Marcus that if he revealed the truth, I would never forgive him. I told him he was being selfish, that he was going to hurt you by bringing this secret child into your life. I said terrible things, Mama, things I can never take back. But that does not explain the insurance policy. That does not explain what happened on Miller's Curve. Josephine's face crumpled. The insurance policy, that was not about killing Marcus. I swear it was not. Then what was it about? I was in debt, Mama, serious debt. I had been living beyond my means for years, trying to maintain the image of success. Credit cards, loans, I was drowning. So you took out a policy on your brother's life. I told myself it was just insurance, just a backup plan in case something happened. Marcus was young and healthy. He would probably outlive me. I never actually expected to collect on it. But you forged his signature. You paid the premiums yourself. Because I knew Marcus would never agree to it. He would have thought I was crazy, so I did it without telling him. Josephine's voice broke. I know how it looks. I know it seems like I was planning something terrible. But I swear, Mama, I never intended for Marcus to die. I never wanted that. Then what happened that night? What happened on Miller's Curve? Josephine was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was hollow, distant, as if she were reliving a nightmare. That night, Marcus called me. He said he had made a decision. He was going to tell you about Celestine the next day. He was done with the secrets. And you tried to stop him. I begged him to wait. I begged him to give me more time to prepare. But he would not listen. He said he was tired of living a lie. He said Celestine deserved to know her family. So you followed him. Yes, I got in my car and followed him. I do not even know what I was thinking. I just knew I had to stop him. I had to make him understand. What happened when you caught up to him? I flashed my lights. I honked my horn. I was trying to get him to pull over so we could talk, but he would not stop. He just kept driving. Josephine buried her face in her hands. The rain was coming down so hard. The road was slick. I got closer and closer, trying to get his attention. And then what? I lost control. My car slid on the wet pavement. I sideswiped his rear bumper. It was just a tap, Mama, just a small collision, but it was enough. Tears were streaming down her face. His car spun out. He tried to correct, but the road was too wet. He went off the curve and hit that tree. I felt my legs give way. I sank into a chair, my whole body trembling. You caused the accident. You ran your brother off the road. I did not mean to. I swear I did not mean to. It was an accident, a terrible, horrible accident. But you did not stop. You did not call for help. You just drove away. I panicked, Mama. I saw his car wrapped around that tree and I panicked. I thought he was already dead. I thought there was nothing I could do. You left him there to die alone. I know what I did was unforgivable. I have lived with that guilt every single day for 8 years. Josephine looked at me with desperate eyes. Mama, please, you have to believe me. I never wanted Marcus to die. I loved him. He was my brother. I stared at my daughter, this woman who had been my comfort and support for so long, this woman who had held me at Marcus's funeral, this woman who had lied to my face for nearly a decade. You let me grieve for 8 years, thinking my son died in an accident. You let me wonder why God had taken him from me. You let me suffer, knowing the truth the whole time. I was afraid, Mama, afraid of losing you, afraid of going to prison, afraid of everything. And the insurance money, the $500,000 you collected. Josephine hung her head. I used it to pay off my debts, to buy the house, to build the life I thought I deserved. She laughed bitterly. But it never brought me any peace. Every dollar I spent felt like blood money. Every night I dreamed about Marcus, about what I had done. You should have confessed. You should have faced the consequences. I know, I should have, but I was a coward. I chose to protect myself instead of honoring my brother's memory. The room was silent for a long moment. I looked at Celestine, who had been standing frozen throughout Josephine's confession. Tears were streaming down her face. She was shaking with emotion. You killed my father, Celestine whispered. You killed him and then you stole money from his death. Josephine flinched. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Sorry does not bring him back. Sorry does not give me the years I should have had with him. Sorry does not fix anything. Celestine stepped forward, her voice rising with anger. I grew up without a father because of you. My mother died of cancer, heartbroken and afraid because of you. I spent my whole life not knowing my grandmother, not knowing my family because of you. I know I destroyed everything. And for what? For your reputation, for money, for a life built on lies. Josephine had no answer. She just sat there, broken and defeated, the weight of her sins finally crushing her. I stood up slowly. Josephine, I want you to leave my house. Mama, please. Leave, now. I cannot look at you anymore. Josephine stood on shaky legs. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Mama, I love you. Please do not push me away. You should have thought about that before you killed my son, before you lied to me for 8 years, before you stole my grandchild from me. Josephine's face crumpled. She walked to the door, then stopped and turned back. What are you going to do? Are you going to tell the police? I looked at her with cold eyes. I do not know yet. Right now, I just need you to leave. Josephine nodded and walked out the door. I heard her car start and drive away. And then I collapsed into my chair and wept. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. I had lost my son 8 years ago. Now I had lost my daughter too, not to death but to truth, the truth of what she had done, the truth of who she really was. Celestine stayed with me during those dark days. She cooked for me. She sat with me. She held my hand while I cried. I am sorry, she said one evening. I never wanted to destroy your family. I just wanted to know the truth about my father. You did not destroy anything, child. Josephine did that herself. You just brought the truth to light. What are you going to do? About Josephine, I mean. I had been thinking about that question constantly. What was the right thing to do? What would Marcus want? I do not know if I want to involve the police, I said slowly. Even after everything she has done, Josephine is still my daughter. I do not want to see her in prison. But she killed my father. She should face consequences. I know, and she will, but maybe not the consequences you are thinking of. Celestine looked at me with confusion. What do you mean? There are different kinds of justice, child. Legal justice is one kind, but there is also social justice, emotional justice, the justice that comes from truth being known and acknowledged. You want to expose her without pressing charges. I want her to face what she has done. I want her to live with the knowledge that everyone knows the truth. I want her to lose the reputation she was so desperate to protect. Celestine thought about this. That might be worse than prison for someone like her. Exactly. Josephine built her whole life around appearances, around what people thought of her. Taking that away will be a punishment far worse than any cell. Over the next few weeks, I made my decision. I would not go to the police. After 8 years, proving Josephine's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt would be nearly impossible anyway. The evidence was circumstantial. The witness was elderly. The insurance fraud might not be enough to convict. But I would make sure the truth was known. I started by telling my church family, the people who had supported me through Marcus's death, the people who had embraced Josephine as a devoted daughter. I told them everything, about Celestine, about the secret Marcus had kept, about Josephine's role in his death, about the insurance policy and the cover-up. The reaction was swift and devastating. People who had admired Josephine now looked at her with disgust. Friends who had celebrated her success now whispered about her crimes. The reputation she had built so carefully came crashing down around her. Within a month, Josephine's life had unraveled. Her husband, who had known nothing about her past, filed for divorce. He took their children and moved across the state. He said he could not trust a woman who was capable of such deception. Her job was next. Someone at the church had connections to her employer. Word got around about the insurance fraud, about the possible vehicular manslaughter. She was quietly let go. And then there was the isolation. The people who had once been her friends stopped calling. The invitations dried up. She became a pariah in the community she had worked so hard to impress. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Josephine had moved to another city. She was living alone, working a low-level job, trying to rebuild a life from the ashes of the one she had destroyed. Part of me felt guilty for what I had done. She was still my daughter. I had brought her into this world. I had raised her. I had loved her. But every time I felt that guilt, I thought about Marcus, about the son I had buried, about the grandchild I had been denied for 23 years. And the guilt faded, replaced by a cold certainty that justice had been served. 6 months after Josephine's confession, Celestine and I visited Marcus's grave. It was a beautiful spring day, the same kind of day when she had first appeared on my porch. The sun was shining, birds were singing, new flowers were blooming across the cemetery. We stood side by side, looking at the headstone. Marcus Elijah Baptiste, 1985, 2016, beloved son and brother. We should add something, Celestine said quietly. What do you mean? The headstone, it should say beloved father too. He was my father. He should be remembered that way. Tears filled my eyes. You are right. We will have it changed. We stood in silence for a long moment, lost in our own thoughts. I wish I had known him better, Celestine said finally. I wish I had more time with him. Tell me about the time you did have. Tell me about your father. Celestine smiled through her tears. He was kind, so kind. Every time he visited, he would bring me a book. He said reading was the most important thing a person could do. He said books could take you anywhere. That sounds like Marcus. He loved to read, even as a little boy. He used to tell me stories, not from books, but stories he made up himself. Adventures about brave girls who conquered monsters and saved kingdoms. I think he was trying to tell me that I could do anything. He believed that. He believed everyone had the power to be extraordinary. Celestine wiped her eyes. I am glad I found you, Mrs. Baptiste. I am glad I finally have family. I put my arm around my granddaughter. Call me Grandma, and you have always had family, child. You just did not know it. Life slowly returned to a new kind of normal. Celestine moved into the spare bedroom at my house. She got a job at a local hospital, following in her mother's footsteps. She made friends. She built a life. And I got to know my granddaughter, the child Marcus had loved in secret, the gift he had left behind without ever being able to tell me. We talked about Marcus constantly. I told her stories from his childhood. She told me about the visits he had made, the letters he had written, the love he had shown even from a distance. Slowly, I came to understand my son better. His choices, his struggles, his desperate desire to do the right thing, even when circumstances made it impossible. He had not been perfect, he had kept secrets, he had made mistakes. But he had loved his daughter. He had loved me. He had been trying to find his way to the truth when his life was cut short. "I forgive him," I said one evening as Celestine, and I sat on the porch watching the sunset. "For keeping you a secret, for not trusting me with the truth." "He was scared, Grandma. He did not want to hurt you." "I know, and I understand now that secrets are not always about deception. Sometimes they are about protection, about waiting for the right moment." "Do you think the right moment would have ever come?" "Yes, I believe it would have. If Josephine had not interfered, I think Marcus would have told me about you. He was ready. He just never got the chance." Celestine took my hand. "Then we honor him by living without secrets, by being honest with each other, by building the family he always wanted." "Yes, child, that is exactly what we do." A year later, I gathered what remained of my family for a special occasion. It was Celestine's birthday, her 24th, the first birthday she would celebrate with her grandmother by her side. I invited everyone I loved, my church family, my neighbors, friends who had supported me through the darkest times, people who had embraced Celestine as one of their own. The backyard was decorated with streamers and balloons. A table was laden with food. Music played from a speaker on the porch. And at the center of it all was my granddaughter, smiling, laughing, surrounded by people who loved her. When it was time for speeches, I stood up. "I want to say something about this young woman, this beautiful, brave, extraordinary young woman." Everyone fell silent. A year ago, Celestine came to my door, a stranger, a ghost from my past. She told me things that shattered my world, things that made me question everything I thought I knew. I looked at my granddaughter with love. But she also brought me a gift, the gift of knowing my son's legacy, the gift of family I thought I had lost, the gift of a second chance to love and be loved. Tears were streaming down my face. Marcus, my son, made mistakes, he kept secrets, but he also loved deeply and truly, and the proof of that love is standing right here. Celestine, my granddaughter, my heart. I raised my glass. To Celestine, to family, to truth, to second chances. To second chances, everyone echoed. Celestine ran to me and threw her arms around my neck. "I love you, Grandma." "I love you too, child, more than you will ever know." If you are watching this story, I want you to understand something important. Secrets have power. They can protect. They can destroy. They can shape entire lives without anyone even knowing they exist. My son kept a secret for 15 years, a secret born of fear and love and impossible circumstances. That secret kept me from knowing my grandchild. It kept Celestine from knowing her family. It created wounds that took years to heal. But secrets also have a way of coming to light. The truth cannot stay buried forever. No matter how deep we bury it, no matter how carefully we hide it, the truth always finds a way to emerge. When I learned that Marcus had left a child, I was shocked. When I learned about the secret that had been hidden from me, I was devastated. But I also discovered something precious. A granddaughter I never knew existed. A connection to my son that I thought I had lost forever. And I discovered something else. The truth about my daughter, the terrible things she had done, the lies she had told, the reputation she had built on a foundation of deception. Losing Josephine was painful. She was my child too, but I could not ignore what she had done. I could not pretend that her sins did not matter. Justice is not always served in a courtroom. Sometimes it is served in the quiet judgment of a community. Sometimes it is served in the loss of everything a person holds dear. Sometimes it is served simply by the truth being known. Josephine lost her reputation, her family, her friends, her career. She lost everything she had worked so hard to build. And she lost something even more precious, her relationship with me. That is a punishment I would not wish on anyone, but it is a punishment she earned through her own choices. Today, 5 years after Celestine appeared on my porch, I am at peace. I am 76 years old. My hair is white. My body is slower than it used to be, but my heart is full. Celestine is married now. A good man named Theodore who treats her like a queen. They have a baby on the way. A great grandchild I will hold in my arms before the year is out. We visit Marcus's grave every month. We bring flowers and talk to him about our lives. We tell him about the family he never got to see. We honor his memory in everything we do. The headstone has been changed now. It reads, Marcus Elijah Baptiste, 1985. 2016, beloved son, brother, and father, his love lives on. And it does. His love lives on in Celestine, in her smile, in her kindness, in the way she tilts her head when she is thinking, just like he used to do. His love lives on in me, in the lessons I learned from his life and his death, in the determination to live without secrets, in the commitment to truth and justice and family. And his love will live on in the next generation, in the great-grandchild who will carry his blood, in the stories we will tell, in the legacy we will protect. Thank you for watching until the end. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to this channel. Press that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Press the like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. I want to know who is here with me. I want to see how big our family can grow. Until next time, take care of yourselves, love your families, honor your loved ones living and departed, and never be afraid of the truth. Because the truth sets us free, even when it breaks our hearts first.